It was spring at the family farm, and everyone was busy looking after the sheep in the shed. "Good morning, Spring," said Teck. Teck looked sleepy. His eyes were small and he gave a big yawn as he drove down the trail all crooked. Looking after sheep was a very tiring job. Every morning, once he reaches the shed, the first thing Teck does is visit his little friends. This morning was no different, so in he went. "Hello, Doris." "Hello, Owen," said Teck. "Hello, Teck. Hey, have you got some milk for us?" asked Owen. "No," replied Teck. "Oh, well, do you want to play then?" asked Doris. "Yes, in a minute, but I have to help Molly first." And off Teck went to look for Molly. There was a new little black lamb in the sheep shed. Its wool was soft and its little legs were weak and shaky. But its mother was very happy to have it. It looked around in amazement. But wait a minute, another little lamb was on its way. "Look, Teck, a new little lamb," said Molly. Teck looked at the lamb. It had just been born. Its mother was smelling it and licking it clean. Teck knew that sheep recognized their baby lambs through their smell. "Sheep are lucky," said Teck. "They don't have to think of names for their lambs. They only have to smell them." Teck noticed that Dolly was in a little pen all by herself. What was the matter with her, he wondered. Something must have happened to her little lamb. But before Teck had a chance to ask Dolly what was wrong, Molly called him. "Are you coming to help, Teck?" she asked, holding a bottle of milk. "Yes," said Teck. And the two of them went to the pen where the other little lambs were resting. "At last! Where have you been?" said Owen. "I just saw a little lamb being born," said Teck. "Come here, Doris. It's your turn to eat," said Molly, as she put the milk bottle into the lamb's mouth. Before long, Doris had sucked the bottle dry. Teck took the empty bottles back to the house. And Molly went to see if the sheep in the field were okay. When he was done, Teck went back to the shed to see his friends. But when he got there, there was no sign of the little lambs. "Doris! Owen!" Teck called. Where had they gone? Then he heard a cow mooing somewhere. "Daisy! They're with Daisy," said Teck. And off he went out of the shed. Past the bunches of hay and over to the cowshed. "Do you know these little lambs, Teck?" asked Daisy. "Yes, of course," said Teck. "They're Doris and Owen, and I've been looking for them everywhere." "Well, off you go now, little lambs. Otherwise, you'll tire yourselves out," said Daisy. "I have to bring them back to feed them with a bottle," said Teck. "Oh, I see," said Daisy. "I'd better see if Tommy the trailer can help," said Teck. "Tommy, will you take Doris and Owen to the sheep shed?" asked Teck. "Are they wearing diapers?" asked Tommy. "Diapers? Of course not. They're little lambs," said Teck. "Oh, well, I'm not going to carry them then," said Tommy. "Why not?" asked Teck. "In case they do a wee-wee on me, of course," said Tommy. "But it's just to the sheep shed," said Teck. So he grabbed Tommy before he had a chance to say no. Once Doris and Owen jumped on to Tommy the trailer, off they went. "This is fun," said Owen. "Lots of fun," said Doris. "You stay at the sheep shed," said Teck, "and don't wander off. It will be feeding time soon." Just then, Molly added a bag of food onto Tommy the trailer. "Ugh," grunted Teck. "Ugh." "Those are some noises, Teck. It's not too heavy for you, is it?" said Molly. But Teck managed to take the food bag out of the shed. It was feeding time, and Molly poured some food from the bag for each sheep. There we go, said Molly. Everyone has filled their tummies. Teck and Tommy the trailer decided to go and see Doris and Owen. Were they hungry again, he wondered? Doris, Owen, do you want some milk now? Asked Teck. Milk? Oh, yes, please, said Doris. I'll have 2 bottles, said Owen. Good gracious me, your tummy will swell like a balloon if you drink 2 bottles, said Teck. Toot toot! Molly! Teck tooted his horn outside the house, but he didn't need to ask for milk. Molly had already prepared some. Come on, Molly, they're starving, said Teck. And Owen said he could drink 2 bottles on his own. Here you go, said Molly. But when he got back, only Owen was there. Where was Doris? Where's Doris? Asked Teck. But Owen didn't care. He was too busy drinking. He wasn't worried about anything except his own tummy. Molly, I'll go with Tommy the trailer to look for Doris, said Teck. As they were going past the little pens, Teck heard Dolly laughing. And there was Doris in the pen with Dolly. Yes, Doris had found a new friend, and Dolly was happy to have Doris keep her company. Well, that's lucky, said Teck. Yes, indeed, said Tommy the trailer. When Molly and Owen went to see what was happening, they were both very happy too. Doris had been very lucky, but so had Owen. He had just drunk 2 bottles of milk all by himself. It was summertime at the family farm. It was beautiful and sunny, and the perfect day for a picnic at the seashore. Teck had never been on a picnic. That's why he was so excited to get going. Unfortunately, there are always a lot of things to do before you can go anywhere. First, Teck had to fill his tummy with red fuel, so he drove towards the fuel tank where Roy was waiting for him. Katie was so excited about the picnic that she couldn't stop jumping. She looked into the picnic basket, but her mother hadn't finished packing all the food. Now then, some apples, cakes, sandwiches, and chips. What else do we need? Thought Molly. Drinks, remembered Katie, and ran to the fridge. Drinks, of course! And Molly put the bottles of pop into the picnic basket. One was for Katie and one for Molly. That was enough food for a day at the seashore. Back by the fuel tank, Roy finished filling Tech's tank and closed his hood. Just as they finished up, Tech remembered that he wanted his bucket. "Oh, I know where it is," said Tech, driving towards the shed. "Here it is," said Tech, standing in front of his bucket. Katie's bucket and shovel were there too. Great! "Hey, Roy, we better look for Katie and Molly, or they might leave without us," said Tech. Katie was on the doorstep, feeling a little worried. How was she going to carry all this stuff to the beach? "I'll help you," said Tech eagerly. Roy put the basket and the blanket on Tech's back. "There you go." "Bye-bye." Roy watched the three of them as they set off for the beach. They started to walk across the farmyard and up the trail. And up another path. "There's the ocean!" shouted Katie. All three of them smiled. "This is heaven," thought Molly. She was able to relax on the beach. Katie was having a great time riding on Tech and saying hello to everyone and everything. Molly sat down on her blanket and closed her eyes. Katie ran to the water, but Tech didn't want to go near the water, so he backed away. Then, Katie and Tech built a sandcastle. Tech went to get water for them when he saw an enormous crab. "Here's the water for you, Katie." "Thanks, Tech." And Katie poured the water around the castle. They were both very busy building away. After decorating the castle, Katy ran to her mother. "Mom, come and see the castle." "Well, this sure is the best castle I have ever seen," said Molly. After all the hard work, Katy and Teck were ready for their picnic. Molly took the food out of the basket. It all looked very tasty. Sandwiches, chips, orange drink, and cakes. But as they started to eat, Katy heard a noise.
Help!
Then Teck heard a noise.
Help!
Then Molly heard a noise.
Help! 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 Help!
Toot toot! Look, there's a man over there in a boat having trouble. He's lost his paddle. Toot toot! Teck sounded his horn. Someone ran to get a rope. "Teck, hurry up!" shouted Molly. The rope was tied onto Teck, and Molly ran into the water. Molly swam and swam. But just as she reached the boat, it turned over and the man fell into the water.
Help! Help!
Shouted the man. "Goodness me! Hurry up, Molly!" shouted Teck worriedly. And then at last, "Pull, Teck, pull!" shouted Molly. Teck pulled as hard as he could. He pulled and pulled until the rope was tight. But as Teck pulled, he got closer and closer to the picnic. Teck pulled once more and got even closer to the food. "Pull, Teck!" shouted Molly. His wheels squashed the sandwiches flat. But at last, Molly and the man reached the shore. That was a close call. Then, as he drove forward, Teck squashed the picnic again. "Oh, thank you, Teck, thank you," said Katy and Molly. "Toot toot!" Teck sounded his horn. "Come on, let's go back to our picnic," said Molly. The man came toward Teck. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you very much for saving me. You're a very brave tractor." That was nice, but what happened to the picnic? It looked as if someone had squashed all the food and there were tire tracks on the sandwiches. Everyone looked at Teck. "Goodness gracious! I must have driven onto our food while pulling the man from the water," said Teck. But no one blamed Teck because he had helped to save the man. "Come and have a picnic with me," said the man. Sure enough, the man had plenty of food for everyone. Yes, they were going to have a picnic on the beach after all. And what fun they had, chatting and eating on the beach. Soon it was time to pack everything and head home. Molly carried the picnic basket and Ted carried Katy, even though the picnic basket was a little lighter. He didn't mind carrying Katie one bit. After all, they were friends. When he finally returned to the machine shed, Teck was tired out, but he didn't mind. He'd had a wonderful day at the seashore. It was almost springtime at the family farm, and the leaves were starting to appear on some of the trees. Molly was busy. She had just planted an apple tree in the garden. "There we are, finished," said Molly as she proudly looked at the young tree. Now that the tree had been planted, all Molly had to do was wait for springtime, when the sap would rise, the leaves would grow, and the flowers would bud. Then, in the summer, flowers would grow and turn into apples. Come next fall, the apples would ripen and be ready for picking. Colin the farm helper was outside in the farmyard looking for something. "Ah, there it is, thank goodness," said Colin when he saw the shovel resting against the wall. But he needed something else too. He disappeared into the tool shed to look for it. "That's odd. I'm almost certain that I left it here," he said. Then suddenly, Teck tooted his horn.
Beep, beep. Are you ready, Colin?
Ouch! Colin accidentally hit his head against the shelf, causing a terrible noise to come from the shed. It was the sounds of pots and paint and tools and nails falling down because of Colin's accident. "Oh, my poor head," he sighed as he rubbed it.
Are you all right in there, Colin?
Asked Teck and Tommy, trying hard not to laugh.
"Oh, you guys, you frightened me and caused a ruckus," said Colin.
But even with all the crashing, he managed to find the tool he was looking for. "What's that?" asked Teck.
"You'll find out in a minute once we get the thorn bushes," said Colin. "Come on."
"Thorn bushes? Why do we have to carry that prickly stuff?"
complained Tommy the trailer.
"It seems like we're always carrying sharp, prickly things. Thorn bushes today, what next?"
"Don't worry, they're young bushes, so their thorns won't be sharp. You'll see." "These are the bushes," said Colin. He placed all of them in Tommy the trailer.
"Ouch! They sting! It hurts!"
Tommy danced from one wheel to the next. But Teck and Colin didn't notice him. Tech just kept going and didn't slow down until he reached the field where they were going to plant the thorn bushes.
Here we go, said Colin. This is where we are going to plant the bushes. And once they grow, the animals will be able to shade themselves beneath them.
And the birds will be able to nest in them, said Tech.
Of course they will, said Colin, and they'll eat the berries that will grow on them. The thorn bushes will be good for everybody.
Colin began planting the bushes immediately. Colin's strange tool was especially for planting bushes.
There we go. One bush planted, said Colin.
But they needed to plant many more. In the meantime, Molly was in the garden raking leaves that had blown all over the lawn. There are so many leaves on this lawn, sighed Molly. From bending over and getting up again and again, Molly suddenly felt a pain in her back.
"Oh, brother,"
she said. Poor Molly. She went into the house to get some rest.
"Oh, my back,"
complained Colin, who was still out in the field. And every other minute, Tommy the trailer moaned,
"How many more are left?"
But Tech's wheels were still working busily.
"Oh, stop complaining, everyone. We've got lots of planting to do still,"
said Tech. Back in the house, Molly was rubbing her back. Oh dear, I'd better sit down. But when Molly sat in the chair, the leg broke and Molly landed on the floor like a sack of potatoes. Oh, oh, oh. Out in the field, Tommy the trailer was still complaining that the thorns were poking his tummy. But Tech kept helping Colin so that they could finish. And indeed, they were almost done planting all the bushes.
"Only one to go," said Colin.
"Thank goodness for that,"
said Tommy the trailer.
After Tech pressed down the dirt with his wheel, the three of them stood back to admire their handiwork. But just as they were about to go back to the farmyard, Tech heard a buzzing noise, like a loud wasp. "Hush! What's that noise?" he asked, and everyone listened carefully.
"Oh, that's someone cutting wood in the forest," said Colin.
Cutting wood? Tech was excited.
"Yes. Would you like to go and watch?" asked Colin.
"Oh, yes, please," said Tech eagerly.
"I don't want to go. I want to stay here,"
said Tommy the trailer.
"We won't be long,"
said Colin. So off he went with Tech across the fields and into the forest. Towering treetops! These are huge trees, said Tech as he looked up at the great tall trees.
"Yes, they are very tall," agreed Colin.
All the trees lose their leaves in winter, don't they? Asked Tech.
"No, not everyone," said Colin. and he explained that evergreen trees and trees with pine needles kept their leaves all year round, while other trees lost all their leaves. "Oh, I see," said Tech, showing great interest. Then he jumped. "Ouch! I think I've been stung by a pine needle," he squealed. "Come along," laughed Colin, and they both walked down the forest path in the direction of the loud noise. At last, Colin and Tech saw the woodcutters, and they were both busy cutting wood with a chainsaw. "There are your buzzing wasps," said Colin. "But why are they cutting wood?" Tech didn't understand. Colin explained that wood was needed to make fence posts, gates, furniture, paper, and many other things. "And little trailers like Tommy," said Tech. "Yes, and little trailers like Tommy." But Tech had loads of questions to ask Colin. He wanted to know why the woodcutter wore a helmet with a mask over his face. But Colin couldn't hear. There was too much noise. When the chainsaw stopped, the woodcutter shouted, "Timber!" Towering treetops! Tech was frightened. The woodcutter's next job was to cut the branches. But their job wasn't just to cut the trees down. They had to plant trees as well. One of the woodcutters picked up a young tree and the other dug a hole in the ground. They placed the young tree in the hole and, just like that, a new tree had been planted. "Well, Tech, you've learned a lot about planting trees today." "Yes, I have," said Tech happily. "Thanks for letting us watch," said Colin, and he shook hands with the two woodcutters. Then Tech and Colin went home. Where was Molly? And was her back better? Well, one thing was certain. The chair wasn't better. Its leg was broken. Molly had gone to visit the carpenter in his workshop so that he could fix the chair. What an interesting place. There were tools of all shapes and sizes to measure, cut, and shape the wood into all kinds of beautiful and useful things. "How are you?" said Molly. "Hello, Molly." "Do you think you can fix this chair?" asked Molly. I don't think so," said the carpenter. "But this rocking chair over here is very comfortable," said the carpenter. "Try it." "Oh, thank you very much." And Molly sat down. She rocked backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. "Oh yes, this chair is very comfortable," said Molly. "Very comfortable indeed." In fact, it was so comfortable that Molly almost fell asleep. "Oh dear!" Molly jumped to her feet. "I'll take it." And the carpenter carried the new chair to the car for her. And after arriving back in the field and hooking up to Tommy the trailer, Tech drove back to the farmyard and machine shed. "Good night, Colin," said Tech and Tommy. "Good night, Tech and Tommy," said Colin. When Colin got into the house, he was very glad to sit down. "Fire and flames!" exclaimed Colin. Where had the rocking chair come from? He'd never seen it before. "Well, this is a very comfortable chair," he said to himself, and he began to rock backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. When Molly came into the kitchen, she found Colin fast asleep in the rocking chair.